What's up, everybody? Chad Keith here with Overcoming Average, and I have Josh and Denise with me today. We were just talking earlier about businesses, and we're going to talk about Josh's business a little bit today. Let me make sure I get it. Total joint vitality of Lake Norman.
Right.
And I was just mentioning in this entrepreneur group, there's sort of a trend I've seen it with some of these startups that they come on and they talk about their business, and their pitch is really slick, and they've clearly been reading business books. And at the end of it, you think, I don't even exactly know what they do. And you kind of pivoted to make the name specifically what you do instead of Empowered Wellness.
That was the previous name, yeah.
Previous name was Empowered Wellness. So
it's got a good ring to it, but it's just too broad.
It is, yeah. I think it's good. Well, and I've, for me with the podcast, I've thought about that too, because people say, oh, you need to have a very specific thing, and the podcast is called Overcoming Average, as Denise, you are just learning, but it's super broad. But I think some of the things that I hope to get out of this podcast is finding just regular people and realizing how complicated everybody's lives are and how multifaceted we are. And one day, Josh, we're going to do an episode just on you. But one of the things, like you, me, both of us, like depending on the person you're talking to, there's a perspective. Like some people see Josh the singer, Josh the musician, Josh the vitality guy, Josh the whatever, dad, Josh the friend. And it sort of was embodied for me as well, because I'm Chad the IT guy, but to some people I'm Chad the musician, Chad the neighbor, or whatever.
Right.
So
yeah.
But yeah, so with those stories, Denise, thanks for coming on and sharing your story. And ultimately I want to get to how Josh was able to help your shoulder. But let's rewind a little bit and go back. So let's go way, way back. How did that lead up to the injury? So even before that, you got an injury because you were weightlifting. Why did you get into weightlifting?
Well, years ago, I got married, had 3 kids, gained 80, 90 pounds with each pregnancy. So, and I was always tiny previously to that. So when I turned 30, after I had my last child, I was a size 16, and I didn't want anybody taking pictures of me. Like, did not want to leave the house, just absolutely disgusted with myself. So I decided to do something about it. And I started running every day, started running like 6-7 miles a day. Did not give me the outcome or look I was wanting for my body. So I started studying about bodybuilding and nutrition. And so it started there 10 years ago.
It's funny. I was just talking to a neighbor who's a big CrossFitter, and I started helping the local CrossFit gym with their IT, and was roped into going a couple days a week. But it's funny for me. Exercise is like, I don't know, it makes me feel so good afterwards, but I hate thinking about doing it ahead of time. But you do hit sort of a breaking point where you're like, I gotta change, whether it having babies or life, whatever.
Right. Yeah.
But I wanted to talk about what worked for you. Like, I think that there's not one solution for working out. And again, I'm not the expert in this stuff, but I've seen people that they start running and they just shred the weight, and they're mentally great. And then other people, it just doesn't ever work. Like, they run and run and run, and they don't ever lose weight, and they just get injured all the time, which I want to get to eventually too.
Yeah.
But I have known some people that it seems like weights is the thing for them. Whether it be the barbell or muscle. I knew one guy in particular that he wasn't ever out of shape, but when he started lifting weights, he just transformed into a different person. It was just crazy. Like he just got even thinner and muscular. He didn't get big, but so it's kind of like what worked for him.
Yeah.
So what was it about? What was in that journey? So you were running 6 miles a day,
6 to 7 a day.
6 to 7 a day. Wow. I mean, that's
and I hated it.
Yeah. Well, I've
Never got the runner's high.
No, I thought that's what you had to do to be in shape and look good, but I was wrong. Not for me.
Yeah.
For me.
Well, and I guess that's what I'm wondering too, is like for certain people, I mean, our bodies are different, you know, some people react differently to things because, I mean, that's a lot of miles, but I probably run probably 15, 20 miles a week right now. So, you know, and I think that's a lot.
That is a lot.
But
she's also like the macro king too.
Oh yeah.
I mean, she was telling me that she was cooking her food for the day before she got here. So like,
oh, that's awesome.
So she's very planned out.
Well,
she's supposed to be getting some macros together for me.
I will.
That's a huge part of it. I joined Noom. I don't know if you guys have heard of Noom.
Yeah.
I have.
Yeah.
So I joined it a couple of months ago, and the thing for me that I like about Noom is it's like the awareness of what and why you're eating stuff. You know, it's like some people are like night snackers. Some people eat like big meals. Some people snack all day. There's different like habits, and they're ingrained in us probably from childhood. But anyway, I sort of like the Noom approach. But there are some, of course, like when you pay for a service, there's a little bit of gimmicky, like, I don't know, I could get this for free somewhere else. But I will say the material that they give you is pretty decent. They talk about, for me, I need simple. Like, if someone just made my meals and just gave them to me and I couldn't eat anything outside, I would be fine with that. But that's a luxury that very few of us have.
Right.
But Noom kind of takes the approach of you have red, yellow, and green food, and you need to eat basically as much green as you want, and a little bit of yellow and a small bit of red. So you can have chocolate, you just don't eat a lot of it, you know. And it's like eat more. They call it calorically dense foods, less of those. So it would be preferable to eat grapes over raisins because there's more water in there and it's not as calorically dense. So, but anyway, back to you. So, so you're trying to transform a little bit, and did you start experimenting with weightlifting, or was that just a thing? What got you into weightlifting?
Well, I actually got on bodybuilding.com and started following a specific plan. So with weightlifting and nutrition, first week I looked different. The first week I lost 7 pounds. It was crazy. And I dropped my cardio. So I quit running seven miles a day to only doing 20 minutes after my workouts of cardio. Ridiculous. I was like, I'm in. It sold me.
Yeah.
Because I hated running. It
Totally.
was less work, really.
Well, and cardio kills your muscle fiber too. So
Yeah. And
if
then
you're doing it to that extent.
And then the nutrition, I mean, you can't do it without the nutrition part. So that's the coolest thing.
Yeah.
Is switching up your diet periodically, and then because everybody's going to hit a wall. You know, anybody's going to start losing weight whenever you start a new diet, whether it's fasting or, I'm doing this new cleanse.
Yep.
Essentials. I don't know what people are doing.
Oh, yeah.
But
everything.
You're going to lose weight when you switch up your norm, you know, or drop your calories or whatever. So, but there's a science to it, you know, how you're, you know, where do you carry your weight, you know, depends on maybe if you need to eat higher fats or lower fats or more carbs or whatever. It's the coolest thing. All anybody has to do is just read about it, and you can you can eat a lot. I mean, you don't have to starve yourself.
Sure.
You really need to eat more.
Well, that's sort of what Noom was saying too, is like, there's a lot of myths floating around with eating, you know, in regards to, if you snack all day, it's better, and your metabolism, like there's all these things. It's like, most of that we know now is not really true. At the end of the day, and from what I can tell, it's calories in, calories out. But your body's going to react. Like you said, if you starve yourself, of course you're going to lose weight, but like, that's not something sustainable,
Right.
where you can feel good. And I'm going to lead up to the sort of injury thing with this too, as well. Like, when you're trying to lose drastic weight, you can do it, but then you don't have the energy to get through the workout. You get hurt, your form slips, I mean, I'm the king of that stuff. I know for me, when I was running, I was training for a half marathon a couple years ago. And it's honestly, just shows you our society, but I was watching The Biggest Loser a lot during that time. And I'm just watching these fat people, and, they're in this crazy isolated camp,
Right.
with professional, world-renowned trainers. Their food is made for them, and they're losing like 100 pounds in a month or something, something crazy.
Yeah.
Which we now know after the years that like half of those people go back to the way they were or worse, which is really crazy. But anyway, I'm watching that, and I'm out running, and I think I was doing an 8 or a 10-mile run that day, and my knee was just killing me. And I was just, every step was just a shock. And I was like, you're just a fat loser. You just need to keep running. You're like that fat guy on the show. And so, as it would be, I injured my IT band, and I should have stopped running. It was just, I needed to listen to my body a little bit and say, hold up here. Like, and now.
Well, somebody that could take care of that for you.
Well, that was 7 years ago, so it's too late
okay,
now.
yeah.
It's already fine. But
He's already had a knee replacement.
Yeah. But so let's go into that with injury. For me, injury is just, once I have something wrong, I'm done, because again, just being totally honest, exercise, it's already hard enough for me to do. I like to exercise my mind. I like to read and think and plan and grow businesses and stuff like that. So in the Zig Ziglar sort of wheel of life, family, friends, spiritual life, physical, all that stuff. That's the one I hate. I'm just like, but it's a love-hate relationship. Like, I've noticed a direct, like, when I go to CrossFit, when I finish my run, that day is usually better. Like, mentally, I'm more clear and all that stuff. But since I default to, oh man, I've got to go run today, that's my default. There's very few days where I wake up, I'm like, yes, 7 miles today. I'm so excited. My neighbor does. He's like always motivated and everything. But since I personally have that default, if I get injured, there's a part of me that's like, yes, I get to relax and just
sit on the couch and eat chips and watch The Biggest Loser.
No. But I get, honestly, I get bummed out because I'm like, man, I was shooting for this goal, and now there's this hurdle, and I don't know how long it's going to take to get over it. I may never get over it. I'm getting older, and every injury is one more possible, like, permanent down for the count sort of injury.
Right.
So, or at least that's what I think. And Josh is going to prove that wrong with this business. So, so tell us about this injury. So you're lifting weights. How many years have you been lifting?
10 years.
10 years. Have you had a bunch of injuries during that time?
Not too many. I had a torn labrum about 6 or 7 years ago, I think.
Okay.
That was pretty bad. I think that was the worst until this latest one and the same shoulder. So I got a little excited. I'm a little too old to be lifting as heavy as what I like to lift.
She does heavy. How heavy were you lifting on your incline? Wait till you hear this.
I don't. Yeah, but people
Let's
are
hear
going to
it.
be like,
Let's
oh,
hear it.
that's
It's
not
fine.
heavy.
No, they're going to. Okay. I am a pretty strong guy. Like, I can bench press a pretty good amount of weight.
Okay.
But she can outbench me. She's 60 pound?
It was 60-pound dumbbells incline.
60-pound dumbbells on the incline. I can't do that.
That's awesome.
For reps, I can't do it for reps.
I really would have liked to have gotten to 70, but I don't think I should.
She's not going to do that.
No.
I don't think that I should.
So
her medical provider.
This is a
advises
crazy
against
story. This is a side story, but it just dawned on me that Josh was in the room when this happened with me. And
oh yes, I'll never forget this. This was how many years ago?
Oh, this was probably
15?
a decade. This is at least a decade, if not
been at least 15
years
maybe.
ago.
Yeah.
So I'm in the gym at our old church working out, and we were lifting weights and whatnot. And Josh and another friend of ours, Jason, were on the treadmills. I think you guys were running.
We were running, yeah.
And at the time, I was in a band with some guys, and the lead singer, Gil, who's a good friend of mine, he's lifting. He's a pretty big guy. He was a football player, and you know, he could rep pretty good. So he was bench pressing. I can't remember if he was at
It was 225.
He started at 255 and he was working down. So he was 255, 235, and we were taking weights off and spotting. And he got to 225. I think he was doing 7 or 8 reps or something, and he got to like 6, and he just stopped, and his pec just ripped. It just he says it felt like a spiral bound notebook, just like the muscle just pulling apart. And I remember like Josh was on the treadmill and he jumps off. We get the weight off of him and his chest just turned purple. And it was just like, whoa.
It was an agony.
Oh, it was
terrible.
awful. And, you know, we're all like, I don't know what to do. So long story short, yeah, he just ripped his pec off of his body and had to do rubber band workouts and stuff.
He's still not fully recovered from that, I don't think. Like,
I think some of it might have been
years ago. He was
yeah.
still doing like, it was still hard for him to do like push-ups.
Yeah. So he got into running and you know, yeah. So you want to try to avoid injury and
so he went from muscle pain to now joint pain.
Right. Yeah.
It's so funny. I forgot that you were in the room with that one. So and one day Gil's going to come on the podcast and I'll talk about it. Now he's a lawyer and he's running for the state house seat in South Carolina.
Oh,
so
really?
Good luck to Gil in a couple of days actually.
Mm-hmm.
So so a couple injuries over the time of weightlifting, and then what happened with the most recent one?
Well, I think I actually was trying to light my grill too, and I like flung my arm. Like if I can just turn my head a certain way, I can throw my back out. I don't know what's happening.
Oh, sure.
I think when you hit 40, everything just starts to fall apart.
Yeah.
And so it was okay. Like I felt a little like something disconnected in my shoulder when I was trying to light my grill. Anyway, started working out, started pushing, lifting, doing, you know, lateral raises especially. Major pain doing my lateral raises and doing anything you do upper body is going to involve your shoulders.
Yeah.
So doing back, doing chest felt fine, but then overnight, excruciating pain. Could not sleep. Literally felt like my, I think like my tendon was like disconnecting from my, I don't know, it was the craziest feeling. It was the worst pain ever. Like I'd rather give birth 10 times over than to go through that. Because I need my sleep.
Yikes.
Also,
yeah.
I could not sleep at night. So, kept going to my chiropractor, you know, being like, do something, help me. You know, I was like, maybe I should go to a doctor. He's like, no, don't do that because you're going to spend $2,000 on an MRI. They're not going to do anything for you. He's
Give
like,
you a steroid injection.
Yeah. He was like, you really need to go see Josh. And I was like, no, I don't know. I'm just going to, you know, lay off of it. I'm just going to, you know, He kept pushing this guy. I was like, okay. All right, I'm going to try it because I can't take it anymore. Could not sleep, and my job's pretty physical too. So I was worried. I was like, okay, I'm going to give it a shot. You know, if it's as simple as what my chiropractor's telling me, then I'll give it a go. So
that's where the referral came from a chiropractor, which to sidestep on that, like I've had my ups and downs with different doctors, physical therapy, chiropractors, like I don't know. There's sometimes where it's a miracle and you're like, oh, these people are great. And there's other times where we're like, I don't think they know what they're doing. And I had an injury recently. Speaking of injuries, I was ramping up my miles for running. I'm on a 7-mile run. And I think we got about 4 or 5 in. And I just took a step and it just started hurting. And it wasn't like I stepped on something or twisted something. It just was a regular step and it just was excruciating for me. And so I thought, well, it's my foot. So I didn't go to my primary. And I know the typical things, you're supposed to go to primary and to work your way up to the specialist. I went straight to the specialist, and it turned out to be totally a waste of time because it was another issue. I've had issues with gout in the past, and that's all it was. It was just a little bit of uric acid. They bumped my medicine up and it went away. But I think that's the struggle is sometimes when we try to self-diagnose, you're going maybe to the wrong place. You know, like I would think arm injury, I probably wouldn't think about a chiropractor. But if you're in the routine of going or somebody says, oh, check this person out, you're going to go on their recommendation. So,
well, she may have not have even been going to him for the arm.
I've been going to him for a while.
Well, and that's what I'm saying.
You're regularly.
You're going to somebody regular you trust, and then they say, you know, you're like, hey, can you check this out or whatever. So,
right.
So the chiropractor recommended Josh, and then, so Josh, you tell us what did you see when she came in?
So, like she said, Mike referred her to me. And she came into the office, and basically, you know, typical with shoulder pain, and even sometimes knee pain, the main complaint is typically, I can't sleep at night without it hurting. And so, you know, there's some sort of tendinopathy or some sort of maybe even a rotator cuff syndrome, which is what I ended up diagnosing her with. On physical exam, you know, she was weak with certain movements. And then there was also a lot of tenderness to palpation and a couple
That's
of
why you couldn't get the 70 pounds weakness. That's what it was.
Right.
Sorry. Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. He's going to be the reason for my next injury.
Yeah. 75 by next episode. Right. So you saw some
weakness in the areas where I thought where I expected it to be weak.
Sure.
And so it wasn't thankfully it wasn't like a rotator cuff tear. At least not if there was any sort of tear, it was micro. There's no full thickness tear, which would mean that she would have to have surgery. There'd be nothing I would be able to do to help her out. So literally, I mean, how long did the procedure take after we took me?
After I asked you 1,000 questions.
I mean, every patient that comes in, they're typically nervous because this is a fairly new sort of therapy.
Yeah.
I mean, extreme athletes and elite athletes have been using it for years. Olympic runners, I mean, they'll literally go in and have their knees injected every 6 months just so they don't get injured. This is more of a prophylactic type treatment. Tiger Woods has had it done. Peyton Manning's had it done. So all of these guys, and it used to be really, really expensive. And some places still charge like $2,000 or $3,000 for it. So it's what we're trying to do now is just make it more open to the public.
Well, and that's why I was
affordable.
interested in doing the podcast about it, because I'm one of those people that's like, what does Josh inject into people again? And like, how does that help?
Right.
So, but I also, I mean, we're living longer now. You know, my grandpa was 100 when he passed away a couple of years ago. And I think a lot of that potential for us to live healthier, longer lives is keep your joints and stuff, keep your body in shape, because we all know people that are 45 and they look like they're just
70.
Yeah. They look like they're done.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
And, but at the same time, you know, a couple hundred years ago, people were dying at 40 and 50, and that was the end of their life. So we're living longer lives, but it's living that fulfilled life when you're 60 and you're out walking and running. And, you know, I have been part of F3, you know, F3, the men's group, and these guys.
What's your nickname?
I can't talk about that. Slappy is my name.
Oh.
That's another story. But no, but I see guys out there that they're just so inspirational to me, because they're, you know, 65 years old and they're keeping up with guys in their 30s and 40s. And it's just one of those things where they kept up, they stayed healthy, they're out there. You know, there's a lot of 60-some-year-old dudes that would never go out there. They couldn't go out there.
Right.
And I think that joints is probably, in my ignorant estimation, is probably a major part of that.
Well, and that's what I love about what I do. And for those of you kind of wondering what it is actually that I inject, it's not some sort of magic potion. Basically,
Yes, it is. It's voodoo.
Yeah.
She calls it voodoo.
So what is it exactly? What does it stand for? What's the acronym?
So PRP, it stands for platelet-rich plasma, and that's something that we actually get from your own blood. And literally, it's just a quick little needle stick to draw the blood. It didn't hurt, right?
Not at all.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, so you draw the blood, and basically we have special kits that when we spin the blood, it collects the PRP for me, and then I just take it out and re-inject it back into the area I'm trying to fix. So platelets are basically when you spin your blood down, you have the red portion, and then you have like the platelet-rich portion, and then you have the plasma. Even in that plasma, there are some platelets, but it's not as a dense area of platelets as that platelet-rich portion. But I just go ahead and take all of it, because even if we have platelet-poor plasma, what we would call it, it's still beneficial.
So let me ask you, is the reason you inject it, is the body not getting the platelets in the right place?
So that's a really good question. The platelets I like to describe them like envelopes. You know, like when you go to the mail, you get an envelope and you open the envelope, it's basically got something in it. It's got some information in it for you.
Okay.
And platelets are basically the same thing. But this information that these platelets have are called growth factors. And, you know, just like if you had a big or a big wall that was glass and behind it was nothing but water, and you took a sledgehammer and you just busted that glass, what's the water going to do? It's going to diffuse from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration. So it's basically chemistry 101. And so these platelets do the same thing. They migrate to an area of low concentration. So if there's like a meniscal tear in your knee, if there's some sort of microscopic tear in the shoulder, in the labrum, like what you had, or, you know, just whatever area we inject it to, those platelets just kind of go there. They set up shop, open up their envelopes, and these growth factors send signals out to the body to be like, hey, we need some help over here. And your body will actually generate stem cells and march them on over to that area where the problem is. And so so if there's a cartilage defect, we're finding out the cartilage actually is vascular. So that's how we're able to regenerate it using this method.
Yeah.
So it's really, I mean, it's just basic kid stuff, really. I mean,
Sure.
Remember when you scraped your knee or your elbow when you were a kid and had that scab form and all that yellow stuff around the outside?
Yeah.
Well, that's your platelets.
Yeah.
That's the healing.
Well, and
agent.
this is good for me because, again, I think I'll call it a stigma, but it's like when we're talking about our bodies and trying to do better, it would be great to live a life where you don't have to ever even take an aspirin, right? Like, I don't need help. I just, my body is just perfectly running the way it should. But there's definitely something to supplements, and I'm not getting enough of this. But I mean, at the end of the day, tons of people have vitamin D deficiencies or, you know, not enough of this or that. So we need help, I think, to live that more fulfilled life where we're feeling better about ourselves. We can sleep. I mean, lack of sleep is just devastating.
Well,
if you can't sleep.
And that's the great thing about this is that you're not using a supplement. You're not having to get a prescription that's going to have adverse effects. I mean, there's really no side effects to having this treatment done other than the fact that you could possibly get like an infection from just the needle stick. Because you're injecting your own basically your own white blood cells.
Right.
So if there is a sort of infection, it's going to fight it off naturally. But that's kind of the beauty of this is because, you know, I haven't treated a single patient that has said, hey, this was the worst idea ever, or that I've come back and been like, you know, this treatment didn't help me at all. It's actually the opposite. I have patients that will have like, you know, when we ask patients about pain, we'll say, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your pain? And, you know, I have patients that have chronic knee pain, chronic shoulder pain, and they'll say, oh, it's like an 8, especially at night when I'm trying to sleep.
Jeez.
And so you have to set the expectation, right? Like, I'm not going to fully cure you, but if I can get that 8 down to like a 3 or a 4, that's a huge win.
Sure.
So now I've got somebody that can't sleep, got somebody that can't lift, And we've got him down to that 4, which everybody can live with a 4 pain. I'm pretty sure throughout the day, most people will say something hurts on a 4 out of 10 if you're a certain age. You know, so that's a huge win. And then they'll come back, hey, can you get me down to 2? Can you give me, I mean, so I'll be like, I mean, yeah, I mean, if you want to pay for it, we can try it, but I don't know. It becomes a nominal improvement each time you do it.
Yeah.
But you know, you take my favorite patient, probably she's 62-year-old lady. Every time I call her to check on her, she's up underneath the house, putting in a heating and air conditioning.
I'm sorry,
unit.
I have to leave.
Yeah.
You're my second favorite. You were serious there for 1 second. That was a really good poker face. And she had the same problem except with her knees. She couldn't sleep at night. She'd been sleeping with a pillow between her leg for 20 years.
Wow.
And Mike, again, referred her to me, and she's a huge champion. She just actually came in again because she had diabetic neuropathy in her feet. And we fixed that too. So, I mean, like...
Yeah, you know, in business and entrepreneurship, somebody said the other day that when somebody's in pain, they would rather have the aspirin than the nice to have. You know, like when you can't sleep, you'll give anything to not be in pain.
Oh yeah.
And from an entrepreneur perspective, I think I want to commend you, Josh, too, for like this. We're in a pandemic. There's a lot of stuff going on, and you're growing your business. I think it's good. People need it. People need to feel better, because again, if you can't sleep, especially in a stressful time like this, it just compounds stress. You can't get your exercise in to feel mentally better. All those things. It just spirals out of control.
Yeah.
So
it's all encompassing. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, it can become, you know, lead people to depression. I mean, pain is terrible.
Well, and I've had like Dr. Lexi here in Davidson that she runs Summit Vitality. Some of these, I don't want to call them newer, but just more holistic medicine, more ways of looking at things that are not necessarily just go in for surgery. I think they're catching on. They've been catching on, and the more people try it and it works, the better it's going to be for everybody. Because it's just like with my foot injury. When I went to that foot specialist, I mean, I still think I figured out the problem by going to a primary. I had you kind of feel your own body and you're like, I think this is what it is. And this guy's not pointing to that. He's giving me orthotics and these things. And I'm just like, is that really, doesn't feel like that's going to help me. Right. And a lot of them, unfortunately, I don't want to say a lot, but there are some that are just trying to get you in and out. You know, here, throw the typical stuff at this foot injury and just get out of here.
Well, that's the insurance game for you, man, because they have to see so many patients now just to even turn a profit. And, you know, and that's what I like about what I do. Like, I don't play with insurance. I mean, so I'm able to spend, we spend an hour or so together, even though we probably only need to spend like 15 minutes. It
was mainly conversation and me asking a million questions.
Understanding what's actually going on.
Yeah. And but the whole thing took like 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, and again, with that little foot injury I had, I probably spent more time with the intake nurse, like talking to her about it. And I felt like she had a better understanding than the doctor. Yeah. But going back to like what Dr. Lexi was saying about insurance, like there's weird insurance stuff where people, they don't take it. But at the end of the day, if you knew this thing's going to work for me, who cares? Like, that's really the insurance people's problem to figure out that. Like we were discussing the other day, there's no insurance for like preventative care, you know, where you just say, I'm going to pay whatever a month for to do upkeep.
Right.
You know, there is insurance where if you get hurt and then you got to spend forever in surgery.
The fan,
You know,
but it's too late.
Then it's too late. Yeah. So, preventative is obviously the key. Living a good, clean life, eating and doing all that stuff, which, you know, again, like I said, not all of us are perfect at, but, yeah. So what's next for, sorry, did you have something?
I was just going to have, her just kind of walk us through
Yeah.
her experience of the procedure, so that anybody that's listening that might be interested in like
Yeah,
just
definitely.
filling it out.
I will say, like, when I saw the video, I was like, oh my gosh, he's got a video of sticking a needle in somebody's arm online, and that's going to get shut down. Because
I was waiting for Facebook guys to come by and take it off, but it's still up. So
that's great. Yeah, a lot of people are scared of needles, but tell us what it was like. You go in, you have a long conversation to understand, give
Right.
him
her
understand what's
provider
going on.
answered all of her questions perfectly.
Yep.
And it was my first time meeting you,
Yep.
and I felt very comfortable. You were super confident about what you were doing, and that's number one for me. Like, if you seem a little
Yeah.
like unsure, but you were,
I think this is going to work. I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, even if he would have said, I this is going to work, I could have seen it in your eyes that you were lying to me if you were lying to me.
Right.
Yeah.
So he was super confident. I felt at ease. You answered my questions, and I asked some ridiculous stuff sometimes. So, but it made me feel better to get answers to them.
Well, when we're the patient, though, I think it's in our right to ask as many questions because, for that clarity, like,
Right.
So just to be clear, what's this going to do? What's that? How am I going to feel? I think that's perfectly great. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
So you ask a bunch of questions and then, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I asked a bunch of questions, and then we just got right to it. He drew blood, and luckily, I'm really glad I didn't watch the needle go in. I think that would have spooked me in the back of my shoulder when you were
You
putting
wouldn't
it
have
in
been
the
able to see
joint.
it. Yeah. Took a posterior approach to it.
He numbed the area, like just topical to where the needle was going in,
Yeah.
and then put the needle in my joint. It didn't hurt, and I have a very low pain tolerance. But when I tell you I was in excruciating pain overnight, that was terrible. I couldn't even lift my arm. I had to pick my arm up with my other arm
terrible.
just to move it. So the only thing that I felt was heaviness. It felt like my shoulder weighed like 8 pounds or something
After the injection?
like as he was doing it.
Okay.
Because I felt something going in there.
Because I
It
am putting fluid into an enclosed area.
Mm.
So, about 8 to 10 cc's, I think is what I ended up putting in. But so yeah, that's a normal. That's very normal.
it just felt very heavy. That was it. And and it was only briefly. It didn't feel that way after I left.
Yep.
Just a little sore, kind of like somebody punched me in the back of the shoulder. That was it.
Sure.
Like nothing. It
That
didn't
kind of
hurt.
feels that way with any needle stick.
Right.
Right.
Didn't
Yeah.
hurt. And then you injected it into my muscle, didn't you?
I injected. Yeah. So the rotator cuff has 4 muscles. So in the back, I hit her joint and her teres major minor, and then the supraspinatus and the bicep tendon. So here's bicep tendon, supraspinatus. So I just kind of came right here and just feathered it out just to hit the tendon and the supraspinatus. So that's kind of why you felt that. I think you could feel that just a little bit, me kind of moving around.
Right.
But I mean, seriously, that took 20 seconds.
Yeah, the video's
It-
super short.
It didn't take long, and my chiropractor was there. And if
was
anybody could have
videoing it.
seen, if anybody could have heard him, he's so goofy, but he's a great chiropractor. He was watching the needle going in, going, "Oh yeah, that's great. Look at all that. Look at all that going in there."
Yeah,
yeah, it's honestly a pretty short. It's a
But-
pretty short video. So
But I'm going to tell you, that night I had zero pain. And I wasn't expecting that because I was told, it may be a couple of days before the pain, is lightened up some. But I had zero pain. My shoulder still hurt at night, but that tendon area, oh my gosh, like I could move my arm. It was amazing. I was like, okay, this is witchcraft. But I'm in because it's working. It was
Right.
so good. And
That's
so
awesome.
every day it just gets better and better and better. I'm not 100%. And I think, Josh, you said it may take like 3 months before
It takes a full 3 months for everything to fully mature.
it's been like 10 days.
Awesome.
And I definitely feel like I could get back in the gym and start doing upper body. But instead I'm doing more like physical therapy stuff
Yeah.
for myself, just from having done it before with previous shoulder injuries. But I'm just going to lay off of it a little bit, but I feel like I could get back in there and just, start lifting, but I'm going to hold off.
Yes.
But because it's feeling so good, that's why.
Yeah. Well, I always say to my patients, I'm a full believer that a body in motion stays in motion. And it's okay to start lifting again, but maybe let's just go a little light.
Yeah.
On the light side of things, or maybe do some like blood flow restriction. And doing this in tandem with the chiropractic care is, I think, probably be the biggest key to the success that I've had. Because I tell them to keep up with the regimen. That if there's a tracking issue with the knee, that I can fix your pain, but if we're not going to fix the tracking issue, you're just going to be back here. So it's, let's keep everything that we're doing not change. Let's just add this to it, and the benefits are phenomenal. I mean, she should not to have, typically for like a joint, not a joint, but like soft tissue, like people with tennis elbow, plantar fasciitis, that tendon pain in the shoulder here. Typically, unless they're just like killing themselves, I had this guy that was bench pressing like 625 pounds, people, and unless she doesn't put like 70 pounds in her arms and tries to do incline presses again, she shouldn't have to have this treated. Now, knee joints, things of that nature, I can fix the problem. I can't fix what's causing the problem. So if weightlifting is what's causing the problem, and if you're still weightlifting heavy, then you might have to come back in about a year or so. If you're overweight and I fix your knees and you don't lose the weight, then you're probably going to be back in about a year or so.
It's either pride, stupidity, or laziness. It's going to be one of those three, probably.
Right. If one of those three things are afflicting you, then this may not be the last rodeo. Typically, tennis elbow is fixed in one treatment, though. Like, you're done. You don't have to have anything else.
Well, that's what I was saying earlier about injury and how, it can end your path. If you're heading towards, it might not even be a goal like a half marathon or a weightlifting competition, but you're just working on some gains or something, and then you get injured. And if you stop, running's the perfect example. If you take a long break from running, you got to start all over again. So doing some sort of motion and movement. And I think the unfortunate thing is, like we talked about in the beginning, if weightlifting works for you and now it's like, well, I can't go back to that. You got to kind of find a new thing, or at least for a while. But, do you think that that's possible that she can get back or get better?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think as long as she just lets the joint heal, and don't rush back into anything. And we talk about this at the end of her appointment as well. It's like, these are the expectations I have from you, from the patient side. Hey, like, don't go back into the gym tomorrow and throw all this weight on the bar and start lifting it, because I don't want to undo what we just did. Yeah. Because I want you to experience the full benefit of this. So I think I told you 2 weeks, about 2.5, 3 weeks, take off, just do light.
Right.
And so she can still lift right now, just modify that. Instead of doing heavy weights, why don't we just do something light?
But I don't trust myself, so I just don't do it.
And that's perfect. That's actually
better. You got to
that.
I think
she's still doing stuff. She's still in the gym, and she's still going through like therapeutic motions and stuff of that nature that are going to, if nothing else, just do more to strengthen the shoulder from the inside out.
Well, Josh told me, he was like, you need to fight against the urge to protect your shoulder. You need to move it around, because whenever you have something like that hurts, you want to be like, oh, I'm not going to move my arm out that way because it hurts. So I did have a couple of days where my shoulder was starting to hurt a little bit more than usual after the injection. And I was like, I haven't been doing I've been protecting my shoulder too much. So that night in the gym, I started, grabbed a little 3-pound squeeze balls and doing like little motions and movements, trying to get my range of motion back and just fighting through that urge to protect it. And it was way better the next day. So now I was like, okay, that's it. I just need to keep moving it, keep it.
And patients like this are awesome because she wants to be active. She wants to be doing something. Yeah. It's so much easier to treat someone that is really trying to look after themselves as opposed to, the person that's on like a cholesterol medication or blood pressure medication, and they'll still eat the McDonald's because they got a pill to fix that. And that's not what I'm about.
Yeah.
Dr. Simmer's definitely not about that.
Right.
And, patients that have that same mentality are really easy to treat. Now, the patients that come to me that do have that mentality where they have a pill for that. Like, I'm very passionate about like coaching them and trying to be like, hey, listen, holding them accountable. Because a lot of times that's what patients are missing. The doctor's not going to be holding them accountable. Their primary care is not going to hold them accountable.
Right.
They're just there to refill the prescription, get them out, go see the next patient.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know what, like we're going to sit down, we're going to go through everything you ate last week. Like I want you to write it down. I want to see it, and don't lie to me.
Yeah.
I've even put people on these food apps, and I'll log in to see what if they're going to do it. Then those are the people you can actually help.
So, people need a little bit of accountability, but Dr. Rick Stewart, and our friend who's been on as well, he talks a lot about, you give somebody physical therapy homework and they just don't do it.
Nope.
They don't take their medicine. And it's like, you have to try, you have to listen to the person that knows better. And I have a personal experience with not listening. When I probably was in my 20s and I broke my ankle at work. I was doing manual labor. I was working at this truck unloading place, and I stepped on a pallet jack, and I looked down.
Right. That's something else we have in common. We lumped trucks.
That's right.
We're like the only two people in our group that even know what that means.
So I look down and I see the bottom of my shoe, and I just was like, well, and I kind of got dizzy and I passed out. And some guy was talking to me, and I just hear the, just the buzzing. I'm just looking at this guy's mouth moving, like, I don't know what this guy's saying. And I'm like, my ankle's just destroyed. So they got me in the back room, and I took my shoe off, and my foot just swelled up really bad. So I went to the doctor, went to the urgent care and everything, and they're like, fractures, nothing to do about it, typical. Well, I stayed off of it for a really long time. My brother had a crutch at the house, and it was excruciating to touch it on anything. So I was using that crutch. And when I went back to the doctor, he said, my foot was just purple. And he said, you have to start walking on that foot. And I was like, no way, no way. And he said, if you don't, that blood's just going to sit there. You've got to move it. And then the blood, and sure as the world, I sucked it up. I started walking on it a little bit. And in a few days, all the blood left the foot, and I got better. So I was not necessarily listening to instruction. I was avoiding the pain. But I think the whole key here is to stay in motion in some sort of a healthy way. Follow the instructions to your doctors. Some of them don't know what they're talking about, but the majority of them do know what they're talking about, and we need to listen to them.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
And there's also second opinions. Go talk to another doctor. If you don't feel it, if you're not having the conversation, you're not getting what you want out of them, maybe get the second opinion. But don't go nuts and start asking around till you get the answer you want. Because trust the people that know what they're doing.
Right.
Yep. Life is full of decisions, and that's something I really, really try to preach to my patients that come in for either joint health or even other things that I do as well. But and it takes a split second to make a decision.
Yeah.
So what type of decision are you going to make? You can make an opposite decision just as quickly as you can make this bad decision. So do you want to sit in the drive-thru line at McDonald's, or do you want to, just go get a salad somewhere? I mean,
so, there's a process behind that. And one other guest I had on we were talking about this, how your thoughts lead to a feeling, and your feelings make you do an action, and the action causes a consequence.
Right.
And so a lot of it is mental. Like, why are you thinking that way? Going back to Noom and stuff, it's like, why are you in the McDonald's drive-through here?
So it's a learned behavior. I mean, that's all it is behavior.
Yeah. Because,
that's something you have to really actually
and
retrain.
practicing the thought, like, why do you think this is going to be good for you? Because you're seeking that feeling, and then the feeling is going to lead to that. And ultimately...
Look at you. You are your own therapist.
I know. That's what this is all about.
I love the saying, I like what you do for me. I don't like what you do to me.
Mm-hmm.
So like when I see a bag of Doritos, like I say stuff like that. Like I've had to retrain myself to be like, I like what you do for me, but I don't like what you do to me.
Yeah.
In other words, these next 5 minutes that I'm sitting here plowing through this bag of chips are going to be really fun. But, you know, the 5 pounds that I'm going to put on after plowing through like 18 bags of these chips over a period of time, that's not fun. You know, so it's just kind of you're reprogramming. I'm like, walk up to a cookie and I'd be like, oh, you're stupid. I'm not going to eat you. You know what I mean? Like just, you know, things like that. You have, but it requires a little bit of effort, a little bit of thought process.
Yeah. Well, I tend to think like I go all out or nothing at all, you know, and that's a problem for me because like I'm going to start this weight loss program. I'm going to starve myself and run every day and I'll lose 25 pounds and then I'm done and I just stop. You know,
I made it. This is it.
It's like, okay, cool. The scale says what I want. Now I'm done. And then you just like go back. So I think people are different. Like the better thing to do is just make this slow, small life changes, you know, like, but the thing I always wonder is how to make that stick. Cause I think a lot of that stuff's wired in us. Like, you know, I'm pretty open about it. Like what I was saying, the way I mentally look at exercise, not everybody's that way. There's some people, our neighbor out here, she had already worked out, but she was like, I want to work out again. I'm going to text some neighbors and go out again, you know, do a second workout for the day. There's some people that just really enjoy it. And to them, they don't understand how I think about it. Right. You know, well, and I'll give you another example. Rick's wife, Melissa, fantastic runner. Like both of them are amazing runners. And what clued me into the way our mind is so ingrained in how we react is what she said about her running. She was out running, just regular run out in the neighborhood, and somebody was coming up behind her, and she's like, "I'm not gonna let that girl beat me. I'm a champion. I can do this." Like, and she mentally, and she talked about how when she's racing, she's like, I'm going to beat that person. I'm going to pass that person. I'm going to show that like she is a champion in her mind.
Right.
Versus me, when I'm running, I'm thinking, I wonder if they'll be able to find my body in the ditch when I die of a heart attack, you know, and is this the,
and you're telling the person behind you, keep going, nothing to see here.
Yeah. And I'm like, pass, just get around me because I don't want anybody watching me struggle. So, you know, it's a different mindset, and I don't know how to change that necessarily. I mean, is it changeable? I don't know. I wonder. What do you think? You're saying yes. You think you can change the mindset?
Yes and no. I think it's what you're doing. You're not looking forward to doing that particular thing. And I think one reason why people don't stick with something is they feel like they have to give everything up all at once.
Yeah.
Or another huge thing is if you can just stick with one thing for a week, your food, your training, whatever it is you're doing, once you see a result, if you see a result, whether it's on the scale, whether it's your pants fit a little looser that week, then there's motivation to keep going. But a lot of people, everybody's so busy and our minds are going, you know, 1,000 different ways at, you know, all the time, that nobody sticks with anything for a while. Like, give something 3 weeks before you try something else. Don't be like, oh, I'm going to try this.
Well, and I think a support system of people is so important, like having other folks. And I think that's where Noom or even a culture like F3 or CrossFit, where you are part of the community, that really helps too, you know, because everybody's different. Like there are some people that I always equate it to the way my 2 brothers are. I've got one brother who, you know, if you tell him, dude, you suck, he goes, yep, you're right, I do suck, I'm giving up, you know. Whereas if you say, hey man, we can do this, you've got the talent, we can do this, he goes off of encouragement. And my other brother, you kick him in the butt and he's like, oh yeah, we'll watch this, you know, I'm going to show you. And so people are different. I mean, the way I see my children grow up, and they're different brains. They react differently. And so I think everybody needs to kind of find their thing, their niche, whatever works for them. And maybe I think sticking to it is key, but then also be willing to like give it up and try something different. If running's not working, try weightlifting. If that's not working, try yoga. I don't know what it is.
If you dread it, then you probably shouldn't be doing it. I would suggest trying something else. Me personally, I would rather, I'm not going to go that extreme. I'm not going to say I'd rather die, but there's no way I could do CrossFit. I couldn't do it because, number one, I don't want somebody telling me what to do. I don't want to have to compete with somebody else because I will kill myself. Okay, if we're going to do this as many rounds as possible, like I'm going to try to kill you, but I'm going to kill myself in the process. And knowing that I can't even, like, I'm too lazy for that. Like, I would rather just do my little reps, sit, rest. You know, I can't. So I would dread it. I'd be like, I'm not going to get up at 6 and go do that. Yeah. I don't want to go after work to do that. But you just got to find something that you enjoy doing. Yeah. Or even if you don't enjoy it at first, but you see the benefits of it, and then you're like, you know what, I really like that. That's going to push me to keep going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's key because, I mean, even with CrossFit, like I do the hybrid fit class right now, which is just a lot more cardio, 45 minutes to an hour workout. We don't do barbell and stuff. And I love it. But honestly, when I first started, I was just super anxious because I was thinking that, like, there's going to be people like you out there trying to be like, I'm going to show this guy up, you know? And so I was like, I don't want to be in a competition. No. I want to be hiding in the corner and get my workout done because I'm here to try to make myself feel better. I'm not trying to be in a competition. But there's different gyms. I mean, there's Burn Boot Camp, there's Orange Theory, there's CrossFit, there's F3, there's FIA for women, there's different things, and sometimes you may be mixing it up. Right now, I'm running with a neighbor who's very encouraging to me. Mm-hmm. He also doesn't let me slack off either. That's the other part, is he pushes me, but he also, you know, when we finish that run, he's like, man, you crushed it. You really did a good job. But if I don't, then he's like, well, we'll pick it up next time, you know, and that sort of thing. So it's finding the balance that works for you and being willing to stick with it for long enough to see a result, but also be willing to change, you know, and see what else is out there.
Yeah.
Like already one difference about me I can tell you is, like you said, if you don't like it, you shouldn't be doing it. I like gravitate towards things that suck worse. Like I feel like I hate this, so I have to do it.
Right.
That was me in my previous relationships. I get it. I understand you.
Well, you know, it's like that. It's like, man, I'm so scared of that roller coaster. I have to go on the roller coaster. You know, there's certain things. So, you know, and maybe I think as long as there's a balance, that can be healthy. It can get out of hand, but yeah, you know, do what works for you and go with it. So
yeah, it's gonna be worth the time. Yeah, everybody's busy, like I said, and like me, 3 kids, work. It has to be worth my time. If I don't enjoy it or I'm not getting some kind of benefit out of it, you know, there's got to be a payoff.
Yeah.
Right.
Otherwise, I'm not going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, Josh, what's next for your business?
You know, we're just continuing to grow. There's a lot of other things that I'm good at, that I've studied, that I'm capable of doing. But right now, we're just keeping it focused on joint health, supplemental health. I do a lot of like testosterone replacement. I have a lot of patients that do that, which is really beneficial for guys our age, because once we tank, dude, like you can't get the gains. It doesn't matter how hard you run, how hard you lift, like you're going to be stuck in a rut, and it sucks. So that's a really big passion of mine, is helping guys out with that, and women. You know, just continue to grow in the Lake Norman area, and you know, we'll eventually start to offer more services as we can. We came kind of our business, our internal business slogan is to narrow the arrow, instead of being like all encompassing like Empowered Wellness was, where we had lasers and we had, you know, a lot of aesthetic, sexual health, and all of these other things. It's like, you know what, let's just narrow the arrow. Let's just focus on one thing. Let's just pull it back and just kind of plow through that market first, and become, you know, more sustainable there. And then, you know what, maybe we can hire somebody to
an expert in
grow another entity, or even within the same entity,
Sure.
Offer a different service. So,
Well, I think it's great. I mean, I was speaking of running and some of the stuff we've already talked about. I was looking at some statistics on running speed of like marathons and half marathons breakout in age, and you know, people in their teens are the fastest. Like they're super fast, and then it starts to decline until you get into your early 40s, and then it bumps back up.
Whoa.
So, and
interesting.
isn't that crazy? And so it bumps up a little bit, and then it starts to decline again as you get in your 50s, 60s, and whatnot. So I found that curious because somebody told me that one time. One of my neighbors who's a big runner also was on the podcast. He was talking about how when you get into your 40s, you get like another wave. And I thought really interesting. And I think a lot of it I can see being a stage of life. Like right now, I get up at 5, I work out. I'm working out by 6, hopefully done by 7. And then we're getting the kids ready and starting work and all that stuff. And so it's difficult to have, you know, I'm going to work out for an extra 20 minutes. I just don't have the time. I can't do it. So I think when you get to that stage where your kids are able to kind of handle themselves and get themselves dressed and stuff, I'm right in the middle of it right now where they've, you know, still changing diapers and stuff. So I can see that, but that's encouraging to know there might be another little bump in the future.
How old are you? Are you 40?
38.
You're 38. Okay.
Yeah. So in 10 years, I'll be even faster, even better, I hope. And then I'll slowly decline like everybody else.
I turned 40 this year.
Thank you. Yeah,
Congratulations. Yeah.
We're slowly declining.
You know, it is what it is. But also I think there's some wisdom in just embracing your age and just saying, you know, it is what it is.
You know what? I feel better at
No?
I feel better at 40 though than I did at 30.
Yeah,
Oh,
I agree.
Yeah.
I do too.
Yeah.
that's good to know.
Yeah.
So it's going to get better. It's only going to get better for me.
I look a hell of a lot older though than I did at 30, but I feel better.
Hey, I can help out with that. The same stuff we did in your shoulder.
Okay,
The same stuff we did in your shoulder, I could put on your face.
Okay, let's do that right now. Did you bring your stuff?
Oh my God.
Because
I got some fresh kits at the office.
I got to tell you, because Dr. Simmer, my chiropractor again. Okay, so
he is such a believer in this stuff.
oh, he's had everything you can think of injected. Believe me,
But we're
he's
not gonna
told
talk
me
about that.
everything.
Yeah.
So
There's got to be a HIPAA
he
in there.
was telling me that you could inject my face, and I'm like, yes, let's do it, because my Botox ran out like months ago, and I'm like, okay. And even then, whenever I'd go to my the doctor that would give me my Botox injections, I would ask him a million questions too every time, but only after he did it. And he'd be like, Denise, you know you were going to do it anyway. I'm like, you're right. Just make me look younger. I don't care. He was like, you could go blind. I'm like, do it anyway.
You could go
It's
blind.
worth it.
Jeez.
But no, yeah, I wanted to ask you about that because Dr. Simmer brought up that you could do some little, like, you could do the voodoo and the knocking some years off.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Again, I don't market those things
Right.
because it costs money to market those things. So I just market joints.
Well, there's your marketing.
And then when the patients come in, they'll be like, "Oh, can you do anything else with PRP?" I mean, I have women with urinary incontinence. I fix that using the same stuff.
wow.
Men with erectile dysfunction or women that have orgasmic dysfunction. I mean, I can do all of these things, but I just market the joints. And then
Right.
when they come in,
That's where you get all the info.
Yeah.
Is when you come in.
yeah.
Yeah, because I had a coworker come up to me a week or two ago, and he was like, Denise, how old are you? And I was like, 40. And he goes, oh, he said, I swear I thought you were 50. He was
My
not
gosh.
joking. He was not joking.
Who says that?
That's
Who
rude.
says that?
Was he still standing up after you got through talking?
I'm going to make sure he watches this. But yeah, I was like,
You
50.
don't know.
Well,
Was he like 18?
So we'll do it. No, he's actually a few years older than me.
Really?
So he's like, here's some face cream. You need it.
Oh my
So, so second podcast coming up. Josh is gonna make me
Yeah.
look 10 years younger.
75
So then I'll
pound
actually
dumbbells
look my
and-
age,
yeah.
40 and not 50.
No, I do. There are some patients that I will have to say to them, I can do magic. I can't do miracles. So some people I have to politely decline.
Yeah.
Be like, nah, I'm not your guy for this.
No, totally.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for coming on. It was nice meeting you and hearing your stories. And Josh, I hope that your business continues to thrive.
Thanks,
and
man.
Yeah, we'll have to do it again sometime. Again, see how the weights are coming and see if you can get to those 70, 75 pounders. So awesome. Again, podcast is sponsored by Atlas Technology Solutions, my company. We do outsourced IT consulting for small businesses, and we've heard a lot about Josh's business here in the Lake Norman area as well. So go check him out. What's the website?
It's Total Joint Vitality, LKN.com.
Total Joint Vitality, LKN.com. No, it's fine. Yeah. I think, again, I like that specificity there. So,
yep.
Well, thanks for coming on, guys. And
thanks for having
us. I appreciate having
Had a good time.
So, have a good one.
Thank you.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.